Hi. Just see this question. It's a GATE 2006 CPU I/O scheduling question. Okay, and I have already explained you this question earlier, and also I have given you the solution. But I think I could have explained it in a better way. So today I am again going to explain the solution. And if you have watched my previous video of this question and you have understood it, then you just skip this video. Okay, and those who have not understood it, so just concentrate here. I am again going to explain you. Okay, in more better manner. Okay, so you see, I'm going to explain you again this question. You see, three processes are there. There are three processes, and all arrived at time 0. Arrival time of all the processes are 0. Means what? All the processes arrived simultaneously. Okay. Okay. And here you see total execution time given of 10 units, 20 units, 30 units. It means what you see here. I draw here. You see, three processes are there. P1, here I should write process, three processes are there, P1, P2 and P3. So all arrived at the same time. Okay. So in most of the question that we have solved, in all those questions, the arrival times were different for all the processes. But in this question, you can see that arrival times are same for all the processes. Okay. And the execution time of all the processes given as 10 units, 20 units and 30 units. Okay. Execution time of P1 is 10 unit. Here I am writing 10 unit. Then 20 units for P2 and 30 units for P3. Okay. And you see, each process spends first 20% in I/O, next 70% in CPU, last 10% again in I/O. Okay. It means what? Here the execution time is divided into three parts: I/O, CPU, then further I/O. Okay. So here the first 20% will be spent in I/O activity. So it means what? Here P1 will spend first 20% of its execution time in I/O. So what is 20% of 10? It's 2. Same for P2. P2 will spend first 20% in first 20% of execution time in I/O. So what's 20% of 20? It's 4. And same for P3. What is 20% of 30? 6. Okay. Now after that, process will execute CPU. Next 70% time will be spent with CPU. So here I will write CPU. So what is 70% of 10? 7. It means what? Processor P1 will spend 70% of its execution time in CPU. Okay. And same for P2 and P3. What is 70% of 20? It will be 14. And 70% of 30, it's 21. Okay. And again here will be I/O. What is the, so yes, last 10% in I/O. Last 10% in I/O it means what? CPU will spend 10% of its execution time in I/O. So what is 10% of 10? It's 1. Same for P2 and P3. 10% of 20 is, 10% of 20 is 2. And 10% of 30 is 3. Okay. So, after reading till now, we have made this table. Okay. So, it's a easy question. Don't worry. Actually, we have encountered I/O operations in this question that's new to you, but I will make it very easy. Okay, just trust me and watch this video. Okay, and you see it's written SRTF algorithm is used. Shortest remaining time first algorithm is used. And how it is used? It schedules new process either when running process gets blocked on IO or when running process finishes its CPU burst. Okay, it's a very important line. It's a very important line that either when running CPU will SRTF algorithm will schedule the new process. There are two conditions. Either when running process, the process which is running, when it will get blocked on IO, or when running process finishes its CPU burst. Okay, so in these two conditions, a new process can be scheduled. If the current process is blocked on IO, or if the current process has completed its CPU burst, then after that a new process can be scheduled. Okay, and after that all IO operations can be overlapped as much as possible. Okay, this line is also important. All IO operations can be overlapped as much as possible. And okay, IO operations will be overlapped, and ultimately they are asking percentage of time CPU remains idle. Okay, so we have to find out the CPU idle percentage time. Okay, so from this table we will find out the what exactly they are asking. Okay, so you just see here, and now forget about this execution time, because execution time has been divided into three parts. 10 is divided into 2, 7, 1, 20 is divided into 4, 14, 2, 30 is divided into 6, 21 and 3. So just forget this part. Okay, so now let's solve. So just listen very carefully. You see, let's draw the Gantt chart here. Okay, so you see, at time 0 seconds, all the processes have arrived. P1, P2 and P3. All the processes have arrived at the same time. Okay, but here it's given that all the process will execute their IO time first. Okay, P1 will execute its IO first, P2 will execute its IO first, P3 will execute its IO first. Okay, so it, and moreover IO operations can be overlapped as much as possible. So here all the IO operations will be overlapped. You see how from 0 to 2 seconds, okay, it's an IO time of process P1. Okay, and since in the question it is given that IO operations can be overlapped, so from 0 seconds we will start the IO operation of P2 also. Don't start from here. Okay, don't start IO operation, don't write like this 2 to 6 seconds. It since the IO time of P2 is 4, so here you will write from 2 second plus 4. 2 to 6 second will be the IO time dedicated to P2. Don't write here. Okay, because since IO operations can be overlapped, so again I will write from here. 2 seconds to 4 seconds is dedicated for P2. Okay, fine. So you see how the IO operations are overlapped. The IO operation of P1 and IO operation of P4 are overlapped. Okay, it means what? IO operations are IO operations are being executed parallelly. Okay, and again from 0 to 6 seconds, P3 will execute its IO. Okay, fine. You see, from 0 to 2 seconds, P1 executed its first IO. From 0 to 4 seconds, P2 executed its first IO. And from 0 to 6 seconds, P3 executed its first IO. Now here you see, Since P2 has completed its IO at 2 seconds, so it means what? After the completion of its IO at 2 seconds, here I just make it 0. Why? Because P1 has completed its IO of 2 seconds. So it means what? No more time is remaining for the first IO of P1. Okay, this is the first IO and this is the second IO. Okay, since P1 has fully executed its 2 seconds of IO, so it means what? No more time for IO. No more time is remaining for first IO of process P1. Okay, so after finishing its IO, now P1 will take the CPU. It means what? CPU will be given to P1 because after the IO operations, what is the next operation of process P1? CPU. So now CPU will be given to P1. So at here, after the completion of IO at 2 seconds, CPU will be given to P1. So now here I will write P1. So now P1 is running. Okay. Now P1 is running. Why? Because now CPU is with P1. Okay. And also one thing is that don't write P1 from here. Here you should not write P1. Just don't wait for the completion of the IO of all the processes. No. If the IO of a particular process has completed, just instantly give the CPU to that process, because here you see the IO of P1 is completed here. After that, CPU is instantly given to process P1. Don't wait till 6 seconds. What is the reason? You see, in the process state diagram, I told you one important point. You see, what was that? Just see, it's a main memory. Okay. It's a main memory. Here there are 3 processes. Process P1, process P2. Is it visible? I think it's visible. And process P3. Okay. Just wait. Yes. So 3 processes are there, and you see process P1 was busy with the IO. Process P2 is busy with the IO. And process P3 also busy with the IO. So you see here IO operations are being done parallelly. Okay. And you see process P1 has finished its IO first. If you compare all the 3 processes, you see that process P1 has finished its IO at 2 seconds. Okay. So it means what? The IO operation of process P1 is over, while the IO operation of P2 and P3 is being under execution. Okay. It means what? Now P1 is free. So at this point, CPU can be given to P1. Okay. At this point, CPU can be given to P1. So you see process P2 and P3, both are busy with their IO, but at the same time, CPU can be given to process P1. It means what? Here, execution of CPU of process P1 and IO execution of process P2 and process P3 are being done parallelly. So that's why I have written here P1. Okay. Now you see, P1 will run for 7 seconds. What is the CPU of P1? 7 seconds. So P1 will run for 7 seconds. It means what? From 2 seconds, 2 plus 7, from 2 to 9. 2 to 9 seconds. Okay. So now the CPU burst of process P1 is finished. So no more CPU time is remaining for process P1. Okay. And also by this time, when process P1 finish its CPU burst, by this time process P2 and process P3 has also completed its IO. You see process P2 completed its IO at 4 seconds and process P3 completed its IO at 6 seconds. So it means what? By the time process P1 finished its CPU execution, process P2 and process P3 completed its first IO. Here why I have written 0? Because no more IO time is left for process P2, no more first IO time is left for process P2 and process P3. They both have successfully executed their first IO. Okay. And now you see, after the completion of the CPU burst, process P1 again needs IO. So process P1 again needs IO. It means what? Just remember from the process state diagram, when a process requests for IO, then what happens? It goes to the wait block state. Okay. So here again you see, after 9 seconds, it means what? After execution of CPU, process P1, here again process P1 is requesting for IO. Okay. So it means what? Process P1 will go to the block state for 1 second. It means what? Process P1 will be busy with IO for 1 second. So here from 9 second to 10 second, 9 second to 10 second, here process P1 will again be busy with its second IO. Okay. Just careful with the first IO and second IO. Okay. Here process P1 is again busy with its second IO. So now here we can say that process P1 is blocked. Okay. So process P1 is blocked. So now just see here. Now after the completion of its IO, process P1 again needs CPU. So here I will write IO. Process P1 is blocked now. Okay. And since P2 and P3 has completed its IO, first IO, so remove IO from here. Okay. And now, since process P1 is blocked, so we have the CPU is free, and CPU can be assigned to either P2 or P3. Okay. So to which process CPU should be assigned? And also one thing you see, in the question it is clearly written that SRTF schedules new process either when running process gets blocked. So you see, here running process gets blocked. It means what? Now SRTF will schedule new process. Here you see at 9 second running process means what? P1. P1 got blocked. Okay. So now SRTF algorithm will schedule new process as it is clearly written in the question. Okay. Now which process to select? P2 or P3? P2 or P3? Which process to select? So since it's shortest remaining time first, we will select the process with lower burst time. So you just compare P2 and P3. The CPU burst time of P2 and P3. P2 has 14, P3 has 21. So definitely 14 is lesser than 21. So P2 will be selected here. So here I will write P2. So here you see CPU is with P2. CPU is with P2 while P1 is busy with IO. So both these things are happening parallelly, as you can see. Here P1 is busy with IO and CPU is given to P2. So both started at 9 seconds. It means what? Both things happening parallelly. So what is the CPU execution time of process P2? It's 14 seconds. So P2 will run with CPU from 9 seconds till 23 seconds. 9 plus 14, 23. Okay, fine. And also see here one thing. By this time, by the time P2 completed its CPU burst time, here I will make it as 0. Why? Because P2 has fully completed its CPU burst time from 9 seconds to 23 seconds. It means what? No CPU time is left for process P2. Okay. And also by the time process P2 completed its CPU time, process P1 has completed its second IO. Okay. At 10 second, process P1 has completed its second IO. So here I will make it as 0. It means what? No IO time no second IO time is left for process P1. Process P1 has fully executed its IO. Okay. So here you see process P1 is fully done. It means what? Process P1 has successfully completed its first IO, then CPU, and then IO. So process P1 is done. And you see process P2 has completed its first IO and first CPU. Okay. And you see after the completion of its first CPU, so here I will remove process P1. Okay. Because process P1 is done. And you see here after the completion of the CPU time of process P2, now you see after CPU again process P2 needs IO. So process P2 is requesting for IO for 2 seconds again. It means what? Now process P2 will move into the block state. Okay. So here now process P2 will be busy with the IO. Okay. So from 23 seconds, what is the IO time of process P2? 2 seconds. So from 23 seconds till 2 seconds, 23 to 25, process P2 will be busy with IO. Okay. And since here at 23rd second, process P2 got blocked, it means what? Now the CPU is free. Why CPU is free? Because process P2 is blocked for 2 seconds. So here CPU is free. So as it is written in the question, it schedules new process either when running process gets blocked on IO. So you see here running process is P2. So P2 is blocked. Okay. So it means what? SRTF will schedule a new process as it's given in the question. So since the running process P2 gets blocked, so SRTF will select P3. Okay. It means what? CPU will be given to process P3. So here I will write process P3. Okay. Here I have written process P3. So you see here the IO of P2 and CPU of P3 both are executing parallelly. Just see this figure. Here IO of P2 and CPU of P3 both are being done, both are executing parallelly. Okay. And here you see the CPU of P3 is 21 seconds. Okay. So it means what? P3 will run from 23 plus 21 will run till 44 seconds. Okay. So you see the CPU of P3 is fully completed because P3 has successfully completed its CPU time of 21 seconds from 23 to 24. And now here you see by the time process completed its IO, within that time at 25th second P2 So you see by the time process P3 completed its CPU, you see at 25th second process P2 completed its second IO. Once again I tell you, by the time process P3 completed its CPU time at 44th second, at 44th second what? Process P2 completed its CPU time. So within that time, at 25th second, process P2 completed its second IO. Since process P2 completed its second IO, so here I will write 0. Okay, because no more time is left for IO of process P2. And now here you see process P2 is also done. Process P2 completed its first IO, CPU, and second IO. So process P2 is also done. Okay. And here process P3 has completed its first IO, then CPU. Okay. Now 3 seconds are left for process P3. So here since process P2 is done, so here I am removing process P2. Okay. Yeah, right. Now only process P3 is left. Okay. So process P3 has finished its CPU burst. Okay. So now process P3 needs second IO. After the completion of CPU burst, process P3 again needs IO. It means what? IO will be given to process P3, and this IO is of 3 seconds. So here from 44 seconds to 47 seconds, P3 get blocked. It means what? P3 will be busy with second IO. Okay. So it's a complete Gantt chart, and I think this time I have explained you clearly, because I have explained each and every single point with the help of this diagram, with the help of this Gantt chart. Okay. So okay, and you see they have asked in the question percentage of time CPU remains idle. So percentage CPU idle time means what? See, if the CPU is not being used, that is CPU idle time. So you see at first 2 seconds, CPU is not getting utilized. Okay, because CPU is getting utilized from 2 seconds. From 0 to 2 seconds, all the processes are busy with IO. So at this time, CPU is idle, and also see at the ending here P3 is busy with IO. Okay, it means what? P3 is not using the CPU. So also this time is CPU idle time. Okay, so in order to find out the percentage of CPU idle time, what we will do? You see, out of 47 seconds, you see here 2 seconds and here 3 seconds. Here 2 minus 0, 2, and here 3 seconds. 47 minus 4, 43. Okay, combining this two, here I am writing till 47 seconds. Here you see 2 minus 0 plus 47 minus 44 is the CPU idle time. It means what? 2 plus, okay, I think I should write here. So here you see 2 plus 3 by 47. Just convert it into 100. 5 by 47 into 100, it's 10.6%. Okay, I hope you got it. So this question is not actually it's a bit complicated question, because here you can see IO, CPU, IO. Okay, but just apply the concept what you have learned. After that, what you have learned in the process state diagram, okay, what you have learned in SRTF algorithm. So all these concepts are combined to solve this question. Okay, that's why you just learn each and every topic seriously, because who knows, suppose you are solving a question of CPU scheduling algorithm, and you see here the some concept of process state diagram has also been applied here. Okay, all the concepts are interrelated. Okay, so don't leave anything. Okay, fine. So I think you have got it. Okay.